are holding a prayer and you've been told ahead of time that you are reading something, you are going to step right up to the tape in the front of the bima, in front of the stairs right there, and stand in front of the mic. You're going to keep your mask on, and the mic is very sensitive. It will pick you up, no problems, and you can kind of face us, so that way you can look to your right and to your left, the cameras being on your left, Francis being on your right. And please, for everybody, throughout the service, please keep your masks on over your nose and your mouth. If we see people not complying, we will stop the service and wait until we have everybody wearing their masks over nose and mouth to make sure that we can all be safe and enjoy this wonderful experience with Francis together. A few other rules of engagement. Please make sure that your cell phones are off. There is a big game, which some of you may be paying attention to, happening right now. And you don't want to be that person during a silent moment when the ESPN alert goes off. And that's just not the vibe that we're going for. So make sure that all Apple Watches, all cell phones are turned to silent. They're not going to make any beeps or dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun when we are praying together. I think let's do a little prayer and then we'll talk a little bit more. We're going to start off with Hine Matov on page 3.
I think. Hine Matov Manayim.
Shevet Achim Gam Yachad.
Hine
Matov Manayim. Shevet Achim Gam Yachad. Hine Matov, Hine Matov. Yalla la, yalla la 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 la. Hine Matov, Hine Matov. Yalla la, yalla la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. All right, everyone, underneath your seats, you will find a red siddur, our red prayer book that we will be using for this evening. If you're holding a blue one that says Mishkan Tefillah, that's not going to be so much helpful. That's going to be very helpful for this service tonight. If you're holding something called the Torah, it'll come in handy later on in our service. But for the most part, we will be praying out of our red siddur, our red prayer book. Inside, you will see that it goes backwards, if you are used to how English books work. This is typical for a Hebrew prayer book, and you will see that there is Hebrew. There is English, that is the translation. And if you are so brave and you want to sing along with us and you're not familiar with the Hebrew, there is transliteration. There is the italicized text that has the Hebrew written out in English letters. So let's make sure that we are doing all of the participation that we are able, that we can, to support everyone, to support Francis. So that means if you don't know the tune and you want to hum along, that's great. If you want to clap your hands, even better. Stomp your feet, go for it. All the energy that we bring in this room to Francis will be reflected right back from him to all of us. And that's what's going to make this afternoon an amazing, amazing Shabbat. So let's all join back together for a little Hine Matov, page 3, welcoming all brothers and sisters, all family and friends, how good it is for all of us to be together this day.
Hine Matov u'manayim,
Shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov, hine matov. Yalla la, yalla la 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 la. Hine matov, hine matov. Yalla la, yalla la 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 la. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine matov u'manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. And I forgot to mention, my name is Rabbi Max. I am here with Cantor Lauren Adesnik. And if you need to leave the sanctuary for any reason, we have exits over there, the door that most of you came in, an emergency exit in the rear of the sanctuary, one behind me, and in the case of a very real emergency, there is one behind the bima over there. So, with all of that out of the way, let's get started, Francis, with a little bit of Torah, a little bit of Bar Mitzvah, and that begins for us on page 5 with the presentation of your Talit. And so it's my pleasure to invite up Mom and Dad, Calvin and Davida, to present you with your Talit.
As this talit is draped around your shoulders, may the voices of the generations speak to you. May you know that there is a people, a rich heritage to which you belong, a sacred place from which you are connected to all who dwell on earth. As you are embraced in the folds of this talit, so too are you wrapped in the loving embrace of your family, your community, and this holy congregation. May this simplest of garments always be for you a symbol of God's abiding and sheltering presence. As you recite the blessing and wrap yourself in this talit, we proudly watch and celebrate with you as you accept your place in the chain of our tradition.
And now the blessing, Francis.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lihitatef batzitzit.
Amen. And we join together in a prayer of Shehechianu, giving thanks to God for enabling us to reach this amazing occasion in Francis's life. We join together at the bottom of page 5.
Baruch atah
Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehechianu v'kimanu v'hegianu lazman hazeh.
Amen.
Page 6, Francis, the prayer of becoming a bar mitzvah.
Wait, God be that one.
That one.
God,
Yep, you got
God
it.
be with me. Oh, God be with me on this occasion of my bar mitzvah. Help me make meaningful the covenant you now established with me. Sustain me with a sense of holiness. Inspire in me a desire to be special. I do not ask that you make my life easy, resolve my problems, or map out the directions of my life. I ask only that you strengthen within me the desire to mold and shape my life in accordance with your will. In this hour of my bar mitzvah, I invoke your blessings upon my parents and friends and all who have loved and cared for me and have brought me to this time of gladness. Give them joy and fulfillment in my growth and my achievement. You who turn the hearts of children to their parents and the hearts of parents to their children.
Amen. So on page 10, Francis, is a psalm, Psalm 145, that we pray together, but these words are all about happiness, the joy that we bring when we all gather together, singing joyfully, all of the Jewish community, all of our friends and family, especially on a day like today. So we join with you, page 10, for Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, od yehalelucha selah. Ashrei ha'am shekacha lo. Ashrei ha'am she'Adonai Elohav. Tehillah leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, va'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed. Avarchecha, va'ahalala shimcha leolam va'ed. Gadol Adonai umehulal meod, v'li gdulato ein cheker. Dor ledor yeshabach ma'asecha, ugvurotecha yadgidu. Hadar kivod hodecha, v'divrei niflotecha asicha. V'zuznotecha yomeru, ugdulatecha usaprena. Zecherav tuvecha yabiu, v'tzidekatecha yiranenu. Chanun rachum Adonai, erech afayim ugdol chesed. Tov Adonai lekol, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav. Yoducha Adonai kol ma'asecha, v'chasidecha yivarchucha. Kevod malchutecha yomeru, ugvurotecha yidaberu. Lehodia livnei ha'adam gvurotav, uchvod hadar malchuto. Malchutecha malchut kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor vador. So made Adonai lekol hanoflim, vezokef lekol hakefufim. Eine kol elecha yeshaberu, va'ata noten lachem et achlam beito. Poteach et yadecha, umashpia lekol chai ratzon. Tzadik Adonai bechol derachav, v'chasid bechol ma'asav. Rov Adonai lekol korav, lekol asher yikra'uhu ve'emet. Ratzon yereav ya'aseh, ve'et shevatam yishma ve'yoshiyem. Shomer Adonai et kol ahavav, ve'et kol chashayim yashmi. Tehilat Adonai yedaber fi, ve'divrei kol basar shem kodsho le'olam va'ed.
V'anachnu nevarech ya, me'ata ve'ad olam. Hallelujah. We join together in our responsive reading at the bottom of page 13.
May the door of this synagogue be wide enough to receive all who hunger for love, all who are lonely for fellowship.
May it welcome all who have cares to unburden, thanks to express, hopes to nurture.
May the door of this synagogue be narrow enough to shut out pettiness and pride.
May its threshold be no stumbling block to young or straying feet.
May it be too high to admit indifference, selfishness, and harshness.
May this synagogue be, for all who enter, the doorway to a richer and more meaningful life. We rise for Baruch Hu, page 15. Continue in the front inside cover of our Sidurim, our prayer books, with Ma'ariv Aravim, welcoming on the evening, encouraging the changes that take place in the world as well as inside of us.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro Ma'ariv Aravim bechochma poteach she'arim, uvitvuna mishanei itim umachalif et hazmanim, sader et hakochavim b'mishmerotechem barakia kirtzono. Borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or, umavir yom umevi layla umavdil bein yom uvein layla. Adonai tzevaot shemo, el chai v'kayam tamid yimlo aleinu leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
On page 16, back inside of our prayer book, Francis, this prayer Ahava Rabbah isn't just about love, it's about teaching, it's about learning, it's about engagement with one another, because what we Jews have figured out over all these centuries, all these millennia, is that the way that we connect with one another the best is when we learn from one another. And that happens when we have no distractions, when two people or more can just be, that we can learn, that we can enjoy, and that is how we experience this great love. Page 16.
Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu Adonai Eloheinu. Chemla Gedola Vitera Chamalta Aleinu. Be'avor Avotenu V'imotenu Shebatchu V'cha. Vatlamdein Chukei Chayim. Kain Techanenu Utlamdenu. Hamrachem Rachem Aleinu V'tein Belibenu Lehavin Ulhaskil Lishmoa. Lilmod ulalmed lishmor vela'asot ulkayem et kol divrei Talmud Toratecha be'ahava. Baruch atah Adonai habocher be'amo Yisrael be'ahava.
So, Francis, we've started off before everyone came into the sanctuary with our feet planted on the ground, taking a few deep breaths, centering ourselves, and now as we ascend this mountain of prayer, of you becoming bar mitzvah, Francis, that's where we take a break. We feel our feet on the ground, our shoulders dropping, our head held high, so that we can know and listen to all the voices in this room as we join together in words of Shema. Page 18.
Shema Yisrael
Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Nochuto Le'olam Va'ed. Please be seated. With Ve'ahavta, this next prayer, this is really the beginning of all of your learning, Francis. When we start off with this is one of the first prayers that we make sure that any bar mitzvah student knows is the Ve'ahavta. One is because it's a pretty important prayer. The other is because it's the basis of what it means to walk through the world as a Jew. And these words come from Torah. It's a collection, a collage of all of these verses telling us that being Jewish isn't just something that we leave at the door or that we only practice when we're in the synagogue, but it's a lifelong pursuit, something that we carry with us wherever we go, always, whether we are getting up from a night's sleep or lying down after a great day. We join together with you, page 18, Ve'ahavta.
Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha uvchol nafshecha uvechol meodecha vehayu hadvarim ha'ele Asher Anochi Mitzavecha Hayom Alevavecha Veshinantam Levanecha Vedibarta Bam Beshiftecha Bevetecha Uvlechtecha Vaderech Uvshochbecha Uvkumecha Ukshartam Leot Al Yadecha Vehayu letotafot beineinecha Uchtavtam al mezuzot beitecha Uvisharecha Leman tizkeru ve'asitem et chol mitzotai Vehitem kedoshim leloechem Ani Adonai Elohechem Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem le'elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem.
Adonai Elohechem Emet.
The bottom of page 19, it's my pleasure to invite up great uncle Steve Steinberg to lead us in the responsive reading.
Adonai, our God, you took us out of slavery in Egypt. You made us free.
You are in the courage with which we overcame 40 years of desert wandering.
Even today, you are in the hope that, like a beam of light, brightens the darkness of suffering and despair.
You are in the love that creates, protects, forgives.
Standing at the sea, we felt your goodness, your love, and we sang a new song to you. And still today, we sing that song.
We praise you, Adonai, Redeemer of Israel. We join together in that song of freedom, Mi Chamocha, page 20 on the inside back cover.
Ya la la la
La la la la ya na na ya na 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 ya na 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 ya na na ya na na ya na 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 ya na 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 na.
This is the perfect moment to raise up our energy and to give it all to Francis. And you can see Francis up there leading us in our clapping. There we go. Follow along, right along with him. Here we go.
Baruch elim Adonai mi kamocha ne'edar b'kodesh Nora tehilot osei feled Nora tehilot osei feled Adonai imo le'olam va'ed Adonai imo le'olam va'ed
ונאמר כפר אדוני תעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גוי ישראל.
Francis, in a moment, you're going to lead us in the Amidah, a standing prayer, not a very creative name because Amidah means standing. But this prayer is central to what it means to pray. That when we say these words, these ancient words that come from rabbis and sages and books written hundreds and thousands of years ago, we are saying something that generations, thousands of years of Jews have said before us, reminding us of the values that we hold dear, of what is important to us, to hold our family close, our friends close, and to remember to be thankful for all of these wonderful moments around us and for the miracles that show up in our life. We join together on page 21 for the Amidah, and I ask everyone to please rise.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor ve'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim Vekonei Hakol, Vezoker Hasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Geula Livnei B'nechem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Umoshiach Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechaye HaKol Atah Rav Le'oshia, Mashiv HaRuach Umerid HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechaye HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Verofei Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umechayev emunato lishenei afar michamocha ba'al givurot umido melach melech meimim tu mechayev umatzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol.
We join together in our responsive reading found on page 23. And I'd like to invite up to lead us in that reading Grandma Martha Clark.
Many are the ways of holiness, varied are its paths.
There is holiness when we strive to be true to the best we know.
There is holiness when we are kind to others.
There is holiness when we strive for harmony in all of our relationships.
There is holiness when people of different backgrounds work together for a common future.
There is holiness when people seek justice and struggle for righteousness.
There is holiness when people create lasting poetry or song or philosophy.
There is holiness when we forget what divides us and remember what unites us.
Holy, holy, holy is Adonai our God.
Thank you very much. We continue with the Kiddushah found on page 24 and 25.
לקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמעתי שמו טוב בשמי מרום, ככתוב ביד נביאך, וקרא זה זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו, מדיר שמך בכל הארץ, ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. Hallelujah. לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גולך.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גולך. נצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לא ימוש לעולם
And
ועד.
here comes your heart. לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור.
לדור ודור. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך.
כי המלך גדול,
גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה. כי המלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, גדול וקדוש אתה.
ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated. Francis, as you lead us on page 25 in the responsive reading.
From of old, the Jewish people have seen Shabbat as a unique gift, a token of its covenant with God.
Shabbat is the most cherished creation of the Jewish spirit. It mirrors the essence of the Jewish soul.
Shabbat has never been merely a day of rest from labor. It has always been a break in the routine of everyday life.
Shabbat is a symbol of liberation and triumph, of the holy over the profane, of spirit over matter.
In every age, Shabbat has afforded the Jew a sacred retreat, a haven of safety, a fountain of new strength and perpetual renewal.
Shabbat nurtures family life in love and harmony. A home at peace welcomes Shabbat with joy.
Shabbat is a part of nature's design, the very purpose of creation. All that was created attained its fulfillment in Shabbat.
Shabbat is our hope, the calm haven where all the weary find rest. With the coming of Shabbat, redemption and peace enter the world. We join together in our song of joy and rest on Shabbat, page 26, Yismechu. V'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat.
Two more times.
V'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Yismechu v'malechutecha, Shomrei, Shomrei, Shomrei Shabbat v'korei oneg Shabbat. Page 27, we continue praying responsively with Great Aunt Linda McGlasson. If you please join and lead us from the Bima.
Our world is full of wonders and miracles, but all it takes is one little hand placed before our eyes, and we see nothing.
But miracles are all around us and within us. We are each walking miracles.
When we are bruised, what miracle heals us? When we see beauty, what miracle elevates us? When we hear music, what miracle moves us?
When we see suffering, what miracle saddens us? When we give and receive love, what miracle warms us? When we pray, what miracle renews us?
Every springtime is a miracle. Every snowflake is a miracle. The thoughts we think, the words we speak, the hopes we cherish, each is a miracle.
For all these miracles, may your name be exalted and blessed forever and ever. We continue praying responsively on page 28, and it's my pleasure to invite up Auntie Sarah Khan.
Our God, we know there is no greater gift than peace. Help us to find the peace that comes from the love of your Torah.
Inspire us to banish hatred, war, bloodshed, and bigotry. Help us to establish forever one human family, doing your will in love and peace.
Help us to find peace in ourselves and among all people. O God of peace, bless us with peace.
You have given us the power, O God, to bring peace and justice into the world. May we always love peace and pursue it, and love our fellow creatures. Fill us with kindness, wisdom, and love. Then shall we learn to live in peace. Blessed is God, teacher of peace. We join together in words of peace, a prayer for peace. Sim Shalom, page 28.
Sim, sim,
Sim Shalom, sim, sim, sim Shalom, sim, sim, sim Shalom, Tova Uveracha.
sim,
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 sim, sim Shalom,
sim,
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 sim, sim Shalom, sim,
sim,
sim, sim Shalom, Tova Uveracha. Ya na 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 na. Ya na 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 na. Ya na 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 na. Ya na na ya na 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 na.
sim, sim,
Sim Shalom, sim, sim, sim Shalom, sim, sim, sim Shalom, Tova Uveracha. We take a few moments after being led in beautiful prayer by Francis for our own prayers. Maybe those are found on the words of the page, or as you close your eyes, found written within your heart and soul and mind. We take just a few moments for our own silent prayers and reflections.
page 30, we find these words, Yihiyu l'ratzon imrei fi, may the words of my mouth, the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Yihiyu l'ratzon imrei fi, ve'yo libi lefanecha. Adonai Tzuri, Adonai Tzuri, V'gali, V'gali.
Francis, as you prepare to read from the Torah, to continue with the heights of what it means to have a bar mitzvah ceremony, to become bar mitzvah, it's my pleasure to invite up your parents to bless you before embarking on this next journey. Page 31.
May you live to see your world fulfilled. May your destiny be for worlds still to come. And may you trust in generations past and yet to be.
May your heart be filled with intuition, and your words be filled with insight. May songs of praise ever be upon your tongue, and your vision be on a straight path before you.
May your eyes shine with the light of holy words, and your face reflect the brightness of the heavens. May your lips ever speak wisdom, and your fulfillment be in righteousness.
A Jewish home opens its heart, and its link to the generations is proclaimed. Today, our child, nearly grown, is called to read from the Torah and is welcomed into the congregation. May this moment be blessed.
Very nice. So in a few moments, we are going to have a whole lot of hubbub up on the bima. We're going to invite some people up to help open the ark, to help with undressing the Torah, and to help assist Francis as he prepares to read for us from the Torah. So Francis has prepared many months for these moments right here to chant from our Torah, our sacred book, and he will explain a little bit more about what that means after he chants for us. So I am going to invite up to help open the ark Aunt Jessica Wilson, Uncle Andrew Wilson, and cousins Jane Wilson and Oliver Wilson to please come up to the ark right there, and you're going to open it in just a moment. And to help us with undressing the Torah in preparation for the Torah service, I'd like to invite up Uncle Sam Steinberg. And you're going to stand kind of right over there. That'll be great. And everyone else, I'd like you to please rise as the ark is opened, and we turn to page 32.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah.
Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai mirulaim. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. All right, David, if I can ask you to please take out the Torah from the ark. And Calvin and Francis to please join her up on the very highest of the ark, of the bima. Now, Francis, we know that we would not be here without the support of loving family and friends, and support we could not be here without is especially your grandparents, those here and those smiling, watching online, and smiling from the heavens. We know those here, Grandma Martha Clark, Grandpa Gabe Steinberg, and Nana Susan Big. And we know watching online is Charles and Deborah Clark, so give a nice wave to them on the camera that's red. It's right over there on the left. There you go, yeah. Okay, so we are going to engage in something now in just a moment that has been happening in Jewish families and in Jewish communities for generations. Francis, you are about to receive the Torah from your mom, Davida, as parents have been teaching their kids, instructing them in what it means to be Jewish adults, to participate in the Jewish world, to live Jewish values. It is a handing down of Torah from one generation to the next. And so as your mom hands you the Torah and you take it on your shoulders, yep, you can do it right now. And mom and dad, make sure he has a good grip on it. There you go. Wrap that left arm over top of the... Okay, yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
That'll work just fine.
All right, good.
We join together in these blessings as we pray Shema together, page 33.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
Gazlun Adonai iti, Uneromema Shemo Yachta. And now I invite Francis and Mom and Dad to walk around with the Torah for our Hakafah. Everybody else can stay on the bima. Lecha
Adonai Hagedula, Ve'Hagevura, Ve'Hatiferet, Ve'Hanesach, Ve'Ha'od. Ki Chol B'Shamayim V'Haaretz, Ki Chol B'Shamayim U'V'Haaretz. Adonai Amacha, V'Hamit Na'aseh L'Chol Erosh. Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai.
undress the Torah.
Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Yai nai nai yai nai nai yai nai 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 yai nai nai yai nai 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 yai nai 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 yai nai 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 nai. Wilson family, please close the ark and Davida, make sure we're in the right spot. Ask everyone else to please be seated.
Thank you. Can you take us and put it with the other thing? Thanks.
So if you would like to see what Francis is about to chant, that is on page 264. We are in Parashat Miketz, very near the end of Genesis. Genesis 41, verses 1 through 12 will be the verses that Francis is chanting for us, and then he'll tell us all about the entire Torah portion in just a few minutes. So I will hand it over to Cantor to begin our Torah service.
Excellent. So it is my pleasure to call up to the bima for the first Aliyah, Nana Susan Big and Grandpa Gabe Steinberg. Ya'amdu Saramaka Bat Baruch V'yenta, Gabriel Nishan, Ben David Levedina, La Aliyah Torah.
Baruch Adonai. Baruch et Adonai.
Baruch Hu et Adonai.
Eloheinu melech olam, asher b'char banu b'kol ha'amim, v'richatah Adonai, yotai ha'torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vayehi מקץ שנתיים ימים, ופרעה חולם, והנה עומד על היאור, והנה מן היאור עולות 7 פרות, יפות מראה ובריות בשר, ותראינה באחו. והנה 7 פרות אחרות עולות אחריהן מן היאור, רעות מראה ודקות בשר, ותעמודנה אצל הפרות על שפת היאור.
Yasher Koach and grandparents, you can take it away. Amen. Air hugs and kisses. And for our,
You can be seated, yes.
you can be seated. For our second Aliyah, we call up to the Bima cousin Ryan Steinberg and cousin Andrew Steinberg. Ya'amdu Shlomo ben Daniel Natan v'Rivka, Chaim Yivo ben Daniel Natan v'Rivka, la'aliyah l'Torah.
Baruch Adonai Ambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai habarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vatochalna haparot, raot hamar'eh, vedakot habasar, 7 haparot, yefot hamar'eh, uvriot,
Yes.
uvriot,
Vaikat.
vaikat paro, echad,
Vayisha.
oh. Vayishan, vayichalom shenit, vehine 7 shibolim, olot bekane echad bereot vatovot, vehine 7 shibolim, dakot ushtufot kadim, tomechot acharehem.
Yasher
Koach.
Koach.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam natan b'tocheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Beautiful. And so it is my pleasure to call up to make the blessing Mom and Dad, Davida and Calvin. Ya'amdu Davida Leba, Bat Gabriel Nisan V'Saramoka, Calvin La'aliyah Torah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Ambarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten ha'Torah.
Amen.
Amen. Vativlana hashibolim hadakot, 7 hashibolim, haberiot vehamleot, vaikat paro vehine chalom. Vayehi vaboker vatipa emrucho, vayishlach vayikra et kol chartume mitzrayim ve'et kol chachamecha, v'yasaper paro lachem et chalomo, ve'en poter otam lefaro, vayedaber sar hamashkim et paro lemor, את חטאי אני מזכיר היום.
Yasher Koach. Mom, you're up.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
Amen.
Beautiful. So, Francis, before you make the blessing, I'm going to ask you to give Mom and Dad a hug. Beautiful. And then you're going to go have a seat right in the chair that's closest to the Israeli flag. So I can see you. There we go. So in a moment, Francis, you are literally going to walk up into becoming a bar mitzvah. So you've received your Talit. You have received Torah down from the generations. And all the time, I get asked by our bar and bat mitzvah students, well, when is it that I really become a bar or bat mitzvah? Like, is it when I put on the talit? Is it when I turn 13? Is it at the end of the service? So yes, technically when you turn 13, but really it's this moment when you move from your chair to the Torah and you make that blessing before your Torah portion, then you become a bar mitzvah. And that, Francis, is what is called an aliyah. And so you elevate yourself, not only yourself, in becoming a bar mitzvah, becoming that active participant in your Jewish community, but you also elevate all of us here as well. So it's my pleasure now to invite you forward as an official bar mitzvah. Yamad Habachor Habar Mitzvah Baruch Eli ben David Aleba La'aliyah Torah. Now you can make the blessing.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Paro katzaf al avadav, vayiten oti bemishmar, beit sar hatabachim, oti ve'et sar ha'ofim, v'nachal ma'chalom. Balayla echad ani vahu, ish kefitron chalomo chalamnu, v'sham itanu na'ar ivri, Eved lesar hatabachim v'nesaper lo va'yiftor lanu et chalomotenu ish kachalomo patar.
Beautiful. And go ahead and make the blessing after.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shakach. So, Francis, there's a lot to be thankful for in this moment, and there's a lot of blessings to go around, but as you stand before the Torah, as you have your parents behind you, surrounded by our tradition, by your congregation, in front of you are your family and friends, the people who love and support you the most in this world. It's my pleasure to offer you this blessing, a special blessing, as you become bar mitzvah. Vishaberach avotenu v'imotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah, hu yivarech et Baruch Eli ben David Leba, sheyigia lemitzvot ve'ala leTorah, HaKadosh Baruch Hu yishmarehu v'yechayehu, ויכונן את ליבו להיות שלם עם אדוני אלוהיו, להגות בתורתו, ללכת בדרכיו ולשמור מצוותיו, וימצא חן ושכל טוב בעיני אלוהים ואדם, ונאמר, Amen. Now for the English. May God, who blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bless you, Francis, who has come for an aliyah upon the age of mitzvot. May the Holy One guard you and sustain you, helping you to be wholehearted in your faith, studying God's Torah and walking in God's ways and fulfilling God's mitzvot. May you find favor before God and before all people. And together we all say, Amen.
Amen.
So we are going to rise for the dressing of the Torah. That is occurring on page 36. I'd like to invite up Uncle Dan Steinberg and Auntie Becca Steinberg to join us at the Torah so that we can close it up and dress it. And why don't you go ahead and grab the Torah cover.
Vezot Torah asher sham Moshe
Livnei bnei Yisrael al pi Adonai v'yad Moshe. Lai 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 Please be seated. Thank you both very much. So Francis, becoming a bar mitzvah is a three-part project. So the first part is leading our congregation, being a leader in prayer, and that prepares you for many other moments where you're going to stand in front of a bunch of people and talk and lead us. But the second part is being a storyteller, something that's very vital to the Jewish people, and that comes from chanting the Torah. That is what Jews have been doing for millennia, retelling our stories so that they are never forgotten, and to lead us to this next part of being a Jewish adult, which is being a teacher. That we learn from our stories and we learn from our leaders what it means to be a Jew from all of our sacred texts, and to bring that into some meaning for us today. And so, from all of these many months and years of study, what Francis is about to deliver for us is his teaching on what it means to look at Torah through the eyes of Francis.
And Francis, before you start, I just want to remind everybody who's in our sanctuary to please wear a mask over your nose and mouth, so that way we can all be nice and safe.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
If you couldn't tell, today is my bar mitzvah, and I have to say, bar mitzvahs can be very stressful. Between tutoring once a week, every week, and still needing to do school homework at 8 p.m., to needing to study Hebrew almost every day. I haven't even touched on writing a speech or coming up with and executing a bar mitzvah project, and as my mom would say, the whole thing is a big Megillah. Hopefully the party and presents will be worth it. But of course, that's not the true meaning of having a bar mitzvah. Your bar mitzvah isn't just about the party and presents or even the service. Your bar mitzvah isn't even about becoming a man or woman. It's about learning. Learning about Judaism, learning about the Torah, and most importantly, learning about how all that makes you who you are. As I talk about my parsha, I hope you can connect yourself to what I'm saying, and maybe you too can learn something on the way. My parsha is Miketz in the book of Genesis. It's a story I'm sure that most people in this room have heard before. It's the story of Joseph while he's in Egypt. And the story begins with Pharaoh having a dream. In the dream, Pharaoh sees 7 healthy cows. Then Pharaoh sees 7 skinny and sickly ones, swallowing the larger healthy ones. After that, the same thing happens with grain. Pharaoh believes this dream is a message of sorts, and he asks all his advisors what the dream means and what he should do about it. None of them could interpret the dream for him. Pharaoh asks many other people, but none of them could help him still. Eventually, though, people told him to see Joseph, a lowly slave. Joseph had interpreted the dreams of others before, and word about him had slowly spread. Pharaoh asked Joseph what his dream meant, and Joseph said that God would interpret the dream for him. Joseph tells Pharaoh that the 7 grains in cows represent 7 years of plenty, and the 7 shriveled grains in cows represent 7 years of scarcity with little food. Joseph says that the way to fix this is by storing meat and grain during the 7 years of plenty. That way, the 7 years of scarcity won't be as scarce, because the stored meat can be given to those that are starving. Pharaoh was impressed with Joseph's wisdom and promoted him. Pharaoh said, I am Pharaoh, and besides you, no one may lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt. That line stuck with me. If the Pharaoh that trusted Joseph was the same Pharaoh when Moses asked to be free, things would have definitely gone differently. At this point in time, though, Pharaoh believed in Joseph and trusted him so much that Pharaoh made Joseph one of the top advisors during one of the most crucial times. Anyways, back to the rest of the story. Joseph became rich and famous in the land of Egypt in large part because of Pharaoh's trust. And whenever people needed advice or food or almost anything, they'd go see Joseph. One day, Joseph's 11 brothers came to him without the youngest brother, Benjamin. They asked for food, and Joseph realized they didn't recognize him. Now, remember at the beginning when I said Joseph was a slave? Well, that's because his brothers sold him into slavery. Worst prank ever. In all seriousness, though, the brothers did that because they were jealous of Joseph, getting all his father's attention. Now that Joseph was rich and had power, he realized there was a power imbalance, and he could make his brothers pay for making him a slave. Now, this next part gets pretty confusing, so bear with me here. Joseph tells the brothers that they are spies. He tells them they need to stay in jail until their youngest brother comes to them, and until then they are to be imprisoned. Joseph is the youngest brother, and Jacob, the dad, loves him very much. Joseph was at home, though. After 3 days, Joseph lets his brothers go back and get the youngest brother. Joseph gives the brothers the grain and says, if you are honest, your brother will be confined with you. When the brothers look in the sacks, they see their money is there as well as the grain, the money they paid for the grain with. Joseph's brothers talk amongst themselves about Joseph and feeling guilty about him, and Joseph then imprisoned Simeon, one of the brothers. Afterwards, he sent the brothers home to get their youngest brother. Once Joseph's brothers got home, they recounted the tale to their father, Jacob. Jacob doesn't want Benjamin to go because the brothers sold him into slavery, sold Joseph, who used to be Jacob's favorite, into slavery. Eventually, though, Jacob did let the brothers take Benjamin, and the brothers also brought twice as much grain, just to be nice in case the money in their sacks was an error. Jacob also told them to bring what was basically an old-timey goodie bag. It had honey, balm, almonds, and pistachios, among other things. Then the brothers set off again. Joseph invited the brothers into his house, and the brothers explained their situation with the money. Joseph asked if Jacob was okay, albeit not by name, because of course he didn't want to seem like he knew that, and then looked at Benjamin. Joseph said, "May God favor you, my son." Then, despite the fact that his brothers ruined his life, despite the fact that Joseph now had the chance to get back to them, and despite the fact that Joseph is one of the most powerful men in all of Egypt, Joseph looks at his younger brother Benjamin and goes away and cries. This is a crucial moment in the story. I believe it was at this point that Joseph slowly began to realize he can't torment his brothers anymore. And even though his brothers had ruined his life, they're still Joseph's brothers. And Benjamin reminded Joseph of that because Benjamin was younger, and Joseph likely looked at Benjamin as the purest and kindest of the brothers. Later, Joseph returns and the family happily eats, still not knowing that Joseph is their brother. And when daylight arrives, Joseph tells his servants to fill up his brother's sacks with food. Joseph also says to put his own silver goblet into Benjamin's pack. And Joseph tells the brothers that whoever stole the goblet will be enslaved. The brothers still don't know where the goblet was, and all the brothers emptied their packs, and the goblet was, of course, found in Benjamin's pack, as expected by Joseph. Joseph then sends the rest of the brothers away other than Benjamin, and that's where it ends. It kind of ends on a cliffhanger. What will happen next? Will Benjamin and the brothers ever go home? Will Joseph ever forgive them? Well, spoiler alert, Joseph forgives the brothers, and all of them end up living with Joseph. Now, in this parsha, there are a few themes, and one I've decided to spotlight, though, is the theme of trust. Pharaoh trusts a lowly prisoner that doesn't even believe in the same gods as him to stop what is to be a great famine and plague across Egypt. Pharaoh lets the aforementioned lowly prisoner rapidly rise up the ranks. By trusting Joseph, Egypt prospered in a time of depression for many other countries and cities. I mean, the brothers walked all the way from Canaan just to get some food. And if that doesn't show poverty, I don't know what does. Here's a hypothetical. What if this story took place in modern times? What if the leader of a prosperous nation trusted someone who, instead of believing in a different god or religion, believed in a different path to helping the world and thought of different issues to solve? which now that I think about it is basically what religion is. But if this were to occur, we'd have multiple opinions, and by working together, there's a lot we can accomplish. I'm just saying, a shortage of food and money with a deadly sickness going around, sound familiar? It was solved in the Torah by trust, and now in modern times, I believe it can again be solved by trust. Now, the theme of trust does appear yet again in the story of Joseph, and it's hidden with yet another running theme throughout the Torah, the lesson of family. Now, Joseph's family is dysfunctional, to say the least. After being sold into slavery by his brothers due to favoritism, now those are some words I never thought I'd say, Joseph likely put his past behind him and thought he'd never encounter his brothers again, and then he did. Joseph was, of course, much more wealthy than his brothers. At first, Joseph punished his brothers. He made his brothers go hungry and abused his power in order to make them pay for selling him into slavery. Even though the brothers nearly destroyed Joseph's life, though, Joseph saw the humanity in his family and forgave them. Even though Joseph manipulated a power imbalance in order to get back at his brothers, the brothers forgave Joseph. And that is a family that at long last has learned to trust one another and earned each other's trust. And this message about trust isn't just for powerful people and political figures, it applies to you too. Trusting others makes the world a better place. By having trust in your friends and community, your life will improve. You have people you can talk to if anything goes wrong. You have people to rely on if you need anything. Then those people return your trust. They rely on you and talk to you. Trust is a cycle of benefits for both people involved, and it can form bonds that last a lifetime. Sometimes trust can be a little thing, like letting someone play with something fragile that we hold dearly. Could be a much larger thing, such as opening up about your deepest fears and emotions. Seriously, though, no matter how big your act of trust is, you'll notice positive changes in our lives. Others may open up to you. Others may lend you their possessions. More importantly, you'll be able to connect to people on a deeper and more emotional level. It'll also help others connect to you on a more emotional level. I encourage each and every one of you to open yourself up and trust others at least a little bit more, because it can benefit you, your family, your friends, and your community, and the world as a whole in countless ways. Now, I really tried hard to think of ways to relate my bar mitzvah project to the theme of trust, but I couldn't find anything really. So instead, I found a different part of my portion that I believe it relates to. When Joseph invites the brothers into his house for a meal. As far as the brothers are concerned, this complete and utter stranger is inviting them into his home. The brothers are tired and weary, and until this point, Joseph has been a jerk to them. However, for one moment, this complete stranger gives them food and makes them feel better. And this is the first nice thing Joseph has done for his brothers. It's ultimately what led to his realization that he couldn't be a horrible person to them. For my bar mitzvah project, I volunteered at JF&C's food pantry. You may have heard of them before because Temple Emanu-El has talked about them a lot. Its aim is to give food and meals to poor people who can't afford the food, as well as do other social services with the rest of the community. While I volunteered there, I was able to feed over 30 families. And I don't want to talk about this too much, but I also filled shelves. I folded baskets for people's food and helped people sign in. But it feels kind of weird. It feels like bragging about myself. But I guess that is kind of what talking about your bar mitzvah project is. But instead, I'd like to talk about ways you can help. So you too can volunteer. You can find ways to donate food and money, and you don't have to donate to JF&CS. You can donate to other places too. And it's these small things to us that do wonders to the lives of others. We can be like Joseph. Maybe we can't interpret dreams, maybe we can't have power over the land of Egypt, but we can do little things that slowly but surely make the world better. After all, isn't that the point of the Torah and Judaism? It's about showing these great, powerful figures doing great things, and we're supposed to learn from them. We're supposed to be like them. So let's try to do little things based on the acts of prophets that will make the world a better place. Now, I did not make it through this bar mitzvah on my own, and there are some people I need to thank. So thank all the rabbis who helped me with prayers and lead services, especially Cantor Desnick. You made Zimriah super fun, and Temple Emanu-El will miss you. All right. It's time to thank my brothers. You guys are both cute and adorable, even though everyone thinks you two are twins. You are very different people. Bernie, you are creative and artistic. You are independent to a fault, and while I sometimes joke about how big your head is, I think it's holding a giant brain. You are such a sweet brother, and Bernie, no matter how annoyed I am, I will always love you. Louis, you are hilarious. You always say the funniest things, intentionally or not. You are so passionate about everything you do, and you always do your best. Even though you pretend like you're evil, even if you actually were, you're still my brother, Lewis, and I love you. Thank you to Dad for your never-ending stream of support. You're always comforting me in the worst of times. It's so much fun watching sports with you and cheering against Tom Brady, even when you get too into it. It's so much fun discussing sports and homework and life in general with you. I love you so, so much. You've done so much to help me get to this point. And last but not least, Mom. You are incredible. You're the main reason I'm doing this. You're the one who signed me up for bar mitzvah tutoring. You signed me up for Sunday school. That was not supposed to be a joke. You've motivated me, encouraged me, and even had to nag a little bit. Without you, I would not have learned anything ever. So thank you so much for everything you've done. Of course, thank you all, too, for coming to my bar mitzvah with the Georgia game on and everything. And thank you for sitting through this speech. This has been the experience of a lifetime, and it's just getting started. This incredible moment is all thanks to you guys for showing up and celebrating it. So thank you, all of you. You can clap.
Francis. So it wasn't a shock to me hearing you deliver this because I was working with you on it the whole time, and I have to say, though, it lived up to the expectations and then some. It was incredible, and thank you for being our teacher, and I have no doubt, and I don't think anyone else in this room has a doubt, that we're going to be learning a lot from you in the future, in years ahead. So we are going to rise and return the Torah to the Ark, and that's on page 39, and I'd like to invite up to help us with opening the Ark Great Aunt Hedra Packman and brothers Bernie Clark and Lewis Clark.
And Davida, when it's time and the ark is opened, you'll go ahead and take the Torah scroll and place it back in the ark. It's Chaim hi, lama chazikim ba, v'tomchecha
Me'ushar deracheha darchei noam v'chol netivoteha shalom Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh, Chadesh Yameinu, Chadesh Yameinu, Kekedem. All right, Bernie and Lewis, close the ark. And everyone else may please be seated. I appreciate all of the gentleness that you're doing that with. So Francis, after you've been teaching us, it's now our pleasure to give you a short teaching of our own, a short blessing of our own on this amazing occasion. So Francis, when I was thinking about you, there's a story in Talmud about Hillel. And Hillel is famous for a lot of things, said a lot of big sayings. You can find them on the Georgia Dome, the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, written there in big letters, if not now, when. But Hillel does something else. Hillel is approached by somebody seeking to convert. And the guy who comes to see him had just seen another famous sage who basically beat him away with a stick. And this guy, who probably has a lot of chutzpah, comes up to Hillel and says, I want to be a Jew. And Hillel, with all the patience in the world, accepts him and teaches him and spends the rest of the year helping him to fulfill his dream, his goal of becoming a Jew. There's another story about Hillel where he is approached by two jerks, to put it nicely, who constantly try and get under his nerves, who constantly try to annoy him and get him to react in some kind of awful way, but he keeps his cool, and he ends up teaching them and all of us who read this story what it means to be a man, what it means to be an adult, and what it means to have a whole heck of a lot of patience. I couldn't help but think about you in connecting these texts as somebody who has to have a lot of patience, but who also has a great sense of humor, who is filled with love, who knows what it means to take your work seriously, but not to take yourself too seriously, and how to have the most joy in the world. And so I hope, and I expect and know that you will be a light for our congregation, for the Jewish people in the world, as you display what that patience and what that love and that wisdom and that kindness can lead you to, and as we follow you and lead us to great things.
Francis, Mazel Tov. So I feel so lucky that I've gotten to know you for so long, and that we've gotten to sing together all these years, and we've also gotten to learn together in our Grey Kippah class. And oh my, does your Devar Torah just blow me away. I mean, I already expected you were going to be fabulous with all of your Hebrew, because we'd been working together. And as I was thinking about what I wanted to share with you, I wanted to lift up a couple of things. You are a phenomenal storyteller. And you really have this way of bringing everybody in to you. And there's that element of trust that you talked about. You have this amazing independence and sense of trust within you that is so inviting. And so I just want you to continue on that path. You are also very much like Joseph. You like to do your own thing. There's that independence. And I really wish for you that you keep on doing your own thing, that you keep embracing your independence, and that you keep putting yourself out there as the trusting young man that you are, because in doing so, people will be drawn to you, and they will continue to look up to you, as we all do. Mazel tov.
So it's our pleasure to give you this priestly benediction, this blessing that marks all significant moments in Jewish life.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka.
May God always turn towards you with kindness and grace.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha ve'yasem lecha shalom.
May God always protect you, and wherever you go, may God shine the light of shalom. Wherever you go, the light of peace. And together we all say, Amen.
Amen.
All right, Mom and Dad, time for your blessing to Francis.
Francis Eli Clark, what are we going to do with you? We love you so much. I bless you with the prayer for our children you hear from Grandpa at Shabbat dinner at Nana's. May God bless you and guide you. Your family and friends are all around to talk with you, hug you, feed you, and advise you. I hope you always realize your greatest blessings are the people around you. Be strong for the truth. Be charitable in your words. Be just and loving in your deeds. Your truth becomes stronger as you find causes you believe in. Not just why Tom Brady is overrated, but helping others. I've read your passionate words advocating for a peer in a group project. And at home, when your brothers watch movies with you at Camp Francis, you show inclusion and loving kindness. You already are charitable with words and deeds that touch people's souls. I hope these assets gain strength as you discover justice and your truths. A noble heritage has been entrusted to you. Guard it well. This big responsibility can be fun, Your energy and spirit at Passover Seders, or at the Jewish Community Center, even on the basketball court, help to keep traditions alive for the next generations. This is one Grandpa doesn't usually say. May God inspire you to live in the tradition of Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah. Our family Shabbat dinners are not just about challah, but about being together with love. Values begin at home. Hopefully, a strong, happy, and faithful foundation for you. May God inspire you to live in the tradition of Ephraim and Manasseh, who all carried forward the life of our people. Being outside the mainstream isn't easy. I hope you find your tribes in the world, places for you to be fully yourself: Jewish, interfaith, son, brother, artist, friend, athlete, scholar. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord look kindly upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord bestow his favor upon you and give you peace. Even I cannot add to the ancient priestly blessing, except I love you. And you can say,
Amen.
I didn't cry.
Francis, you are already so blessed with so much curiosity, a very diverse curiosity, and that brings together so many disparate communities, and you've amassed a wide range of wonderful friends and family, and you always bring them together. You have always been such a fabulous reader and reading stories and now telling stories. And I've always enjoyed discussing movies, stories, everything with you. And then you got really curious about the NFL. And for the longest time, I have enjoyed talking about and discussing the NFL with you. And now I pretty much just listen to you talk about the NFL. But it doesn't stop there. You're so curious about everything, whether it's acting or reading or writing or other sports like now the NBA or perhaps even the MLB now that the Braves are winning. So you're diversifying even more. But with that, you're bringing in all these different groups of friends, sporty friends, geeky friends, reading friends, all sorts of different friends. And so my wish and blessing for you is that you continue to have this curiosity, you continue to find new things, and that you continue to bring all these diverse communities together, and that you're always surrounded by love and these wonderful communities. So may you be blessed.
Amen. It's okay to give him a hug, yes. All right, I'm going to ask everyone to please rise as we invite up Bernie and Lewis again to help us with opening the Ark for Aleinu, page 40.
Aleinu l'shavayach l'adon hakol,
Lateit gedula le'yotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu kor'im, u'mishtachavim u'modim, lifnei melech, Malchei Hamlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, V'ne'emar, V'haya Adonai, L'melech al kol haaretz, V'yom hahu, Yeh Adonai echad, U'shemo echad. You can close the Ark. And Bernie and Lewis, you're going to hang up there with your family for the rest of the service, and I'd like to ask everyone else to please be seated. You can all be together. This is all a together part of the rest of the service. Yeah. Yeah, that's right, Francis. That's right. Bring it in there. So, Francis, as we prepare to conclude this service in a moment with Havdela, we do so knowing that there are loved ones who are not with us. Loved ones, especially in your family, who you are thinking about, those in your family are thinking about, especially at this time. For your cousin, Allison Bailey, and for great-grandma, Edna Ruth Blumenthal Big, whose yahrzeit is around this Shabbat. And we keep their memory alive, knowing that they are looking down on you, smiling in this moment, filled with pride for all that you have accomplished, knowing all that you will accomplish. If you are anyone in our congregation in the first 30 days mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise and remain standing at this time. If you're in the first year mourning the loss of a loved one, I invite you to please rise and remain standing so our congregation may recognize you. And if you are commemorating a yahrzeit, the death anniversary of a loved one around this Shabbat, I invite you to please rise and remain standing so our congregation may recognize you. And if it is your custom to rise with our mourners or in honor and memory of the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, I invite you to do so now at this time as we turn to page 41 for Mourners Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivarach le'olam u'almei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, V'yatadar v'yit'aleh v'yit'halal shemei dekudasha berichu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata ta'amiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
Ose shalom bimrumav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen.
All right, so now we are going to transition to Havdela. And so Davida, Calvin, Bernie Lewis, and Francis, there should be on the other side of that table, on the reading desks, the implements for Havdela. So if you can light the candle and dole out the different tools that we need, the spices representing the sweetness of Shabbat, the flame representing the light that we all gather around each week's end, and the wine, the grape juice that reminds us of the sweet taste that Shabbat should leave in our mouth for all 6 days until we wait for the next weekend. We join together in Havdela. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
We bless the wine.
Borei peri hagafen, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
We bless the spices.
Borei minei v'samim, borei minei v'samim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam.
We bless the flame.
Borei meorei ha'esh, borei meorei ha'esh. take a sip of the wine, and then extinguish the candle.
Hamavdu ben kodesh lechol chatatenu imcho, zarenu v'chaspenu yarbechacho, v'chacho chavim alayla. Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. Yahu hanavi. Eliyahu hatishbi, Eliyahu, Eliyahu, Eliyahu hagiladi. Simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, simin tov, simin tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, simin tov, tovu, mazel tovu, mazel tovu, simin tov. Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Yehelanu. Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Mazal Tov, Francis. Mazal Tov to all of your family, your friends, and Shavua Tov, everybody. This concludes our service. You can proceed on to the party.
Thank you for not throwing the jelly candies and just eating them. And unless you already know you're supposed to be here for family photos, go enjoy the Nash. Mazel Tov, Francis. Shavua Tov, everyone.